Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Abu Ahmed Choudhury and welcome to AMI Chemistry class. Today we are going to cover some topics from chapter 2.04 and chapter 2.05. Lately the things haven't gone in the same way the way I have planned. So because of that I couldn't upload videos for 2 weeks. So let's not delay anymore and let's begin. I would like to request everyone to give their chapter number and the chapter name, chapter 2.04, ionic compounds and their properties. In the last video or in the last chemistry class at 8th of October, we have learned that what is an ionic compound, and we have learned some of their other things. Now we are going to learn the rest of the thing, but before that I am going to give a short review on the previous video so that you guys can easily relate the new topics with the old topics. In the previous video or in the previous chemistry class at 8th of October, we have learned that ionic compounds are formed when a metal and non-metal is react. We have seen the example of sodium reacting with chlorine to form sodium chloride. We have learned also that in all ionic compounds, the ions are held together in a lattice by strong ionic bonds, forming a giant structure. Here, giant stands for huge lattice. It means it contains billions of particles. When we heat an ionic solid, ions take in the energy and start to vibrate back and forth in the lattice. When the temperature reaches in the melting point, they vibrate so much that they break away from the lattice. Now the substance is in a liquid state. Now the ions are free to move and we still keep on heating. And if we still keep on heating it, some ions will gain enough energy to break the bond and to escape as a gas. When the temperature crosses the boiling point, the liquid becomes gas. We have learned till this thing. I think so. We have learned till this thing, and we may also have learned some new things also, but still I am going to teach you the rest of the thing, that the opposite happens if we cool down a gas. It will lose energy and eventually will form a lattice. I clearly don't remember that have I taught you or not, but still I am going to say it. So it will be a double revision for you if I have taught it in the previous class. The opposite happens if we cool down a gas. It will lose energy and eventually will form a lattice. Let me repeat it one more time, then I will write it, that the opposite happens if we cool down a gas. It will lose energy and form a lattice. Let me write it. As I have said before, but I'm not gonna say it right now, but I have kept it, and I'm gonna keep it for a little while so that you guys can take an essay or you guys can write it on your note copy. I hope this much time is enough for taking an essay or writing a single line. So let me erase it. Now here are the first two properties of an ionic compound. Properties of ionic compound. Give colon. Ionic compounds have high melting and boiling points. Ionic compounds have high melting and boiling points. Ionic compounds are usually soluble in water. Number 2. Ionic compounds are usually soluble in water. Properties of ionic compound, colon. Number 1, ionic compounds have high melting and boiling point. Number 2, ionic compounds are usually soluble in water. SOLUPLE, soluble in water. Full stop. Now the third point. The third and the final property of an ionic compound is ionic compounds do not conduct electricity in their solid form, but they do conduct when they are melted or dissolved in water. Ionic compounds do not conduct electricity in their solid form, but they do conduct when they are melted or dissolved in water. Ionic compounds have very high force of attraction. Ionic compounds have very high force of attraction, so that's why they have high melting and boiling points. Ionic compounds have very high forces of attraction between them, so that's why they have very high melting and boiling points. For that reason, it's very difficult or it's very costly to melt an ionic compound, or it's very difficult to melt an ionic compound than to melt a covalent compound. So it's better to dissolve an ionic compound than to melt it, as it has very high melting and boiling point, so we have to apply more energy. So more energy means more resources or more natural fuel is burning, so we have to pay more cost. According to the industrial usage, if we melt an ionic compound, we have to use more energy, which means we have to give more heat, for which we have to use more electricity for motors and generators, etc., for running the huge melting machines or huge gas burners, etc. So it's a very costly process to melt an ionic compound. So that's not our topic. So let's come to our topic. And the last thing is that it does not conduct electricity in its solid form because they do not have free ions to move through the structure, but in their molten or aqueous state, as they have free ions, these two forms conduct electricity. I have said the reason, now I'm going to write it. Please take an essay or please write it on your note copies. Ionic compounds do not conduct electricity in their solid form because in solid state the compound does not have free ions, but in its molten or aqueous state it does have free ions, so it does conduct electricity in these two forms. সোজাসুজি বাংলা ভাষায় এটা সলিড, যখন আয়নিক কম্পাউন্ডটা সলিড থাকে তখন কারেন্ট পাস করে না, কারণ এটার কোনো ফ্রি আয়ন নাই যে কারেন্টটাকে ক্যারি করবে। Without any free ion, the electricity cannot pass through, so it doesn't have any current, but it doesn't conduct any electricity. But in its aqueous or molten state, it does have free ions which helps the electricity to flow or which carries the electricity. সোজা ভাষায় বলতে গেলে এই আয়নিক কম্পাউন্ডটা যখন সলিড ফর্মটা হচ্ছে একটা স্ট্রাইকের মতো, ট্যাক্সি, বাস, রিক্সা সব কিছু স্ট্রাইক একই সাথে। তো কোনো রাস্তায় কোনো যানবাহন নাই, তো যানবাহন যেহেতু নেই, কুমিল্লা থেকে লোক ঢাকায় আসতে পারতেছে না, ঢাকা থেকে লোক সাপোজ কুমিল্লা যেতে পারতেছে না, এরকম কিছু বিষয়। And molten and aqueous state are the states like that there is no strike and the cars or any kind of vehicle is available, so travelers can travel from Dhaka to Sylhet and Sylhet to Dhaka. That's the basic idea I can give you about this whole thing I have written right now. So now we are going to start a new chapter. So I would like to request everyone to write the new chapter number and the chapter name and the unit name also. Chapter 2.05 Covalent Bond. This is the chapter we are going to start today. So for starting the chapter, at the very beginning we are seeing the name covalent bond. So let me give you a basic idea about what is a covalent bond. Basically, the basic idea of covalent bond is the relation between two non-metals. The relation between two non-metals is known as covalent bond. That's the basic idea. That's the simplest idea about the covalent bond. Now, an easy definition to make you guys understand what is a covalent bond. When two non-metals react by sharing electrons between them to gain stability or to have a full outer shell electron, this process is known as covalent bond. এখানে বললাম কি দুইটা নন মেটাল রিঅ্যাক্ট করতেছে, ইলেকট্রন শেয়ার করতেছে, দুইটা নন মেটাল, নট এ মেটাল অ্যান্ড আ নন মেটাল। এখানে কিন্তু দুটোই নন মেটাল। হিয়ার both are non-metals reacting by sharing electrons. I didn't say here by giving or donating electrons. Here I have said sharing electrons between them to gain stability or to have a full outer shell electron. This process is known as covalent bond. As I have said in the previous videos and the previous classes where I have made you guys understand about ionic compounds and many other things, I have always said one thing, that all the elements in the periodic table look up to the group 8 elements or the group 0 elements, which we know as the noble gases. As they have the full outer shell electrons or the full number of outer shell electrons, all the elements idealize the elements of group 8. All the elements in the other groups idealize the elements in group 8 as they have full outer shell. All the other elements who are not in the group 8 will try to either lose, gain, or try to share electrons to have a full outer shell electron. Now, for learning the definition you need to learn of covalent bond is: a covalent bond consists of mutual sharing of one or more pairs of electrons between two or more atoms of non-metal elements. A covalent bond consists of the mutual sharing of one or more pairs of electrons between two or more atoms of non-metal elements. Or you can learn a different definition. That one is: a covalent bond is a chemical bond that involves the sharing of electron pairs between atoms. These electrons are known as shared pairs or bonding pairs. I think the first definition that I have said to learn is much more easier than the second one I just said. Yeah, I will write only the first one as this is easy to remember and it's also official for learning. So I'm going to write this one. So let me write it for you guys. So in case if someone doesn't understand my handwriting, I'm repeating the words, and the definition is: a covalent bond consists of the mutual sharing. A covalent bond consists of mutual sharing of one or more pairs of electrons between two or more atoms of non-metal elements. Sorry, I have forgot to write the word elements. Let me write it. A covalent bond consists of the mutual sharing of one or more pairs of electrons between two or more atoms of non-metal elements. A covalent bond consists of the mutual sharing for one or more pairs of electrons between two or more non-metal elements. In case someone is not understanding my handwriting or doesn't understand my handwriting, I have wrote the word between It's between, BETWEEN. After more pairs of electrons, I have written between. I didn't write anything else. I have read the word between. A covalent bond consists of the mutual sharing of one or more pairs of electrons between two or more atoms of non-metal elements. So this is a new definition of what is a covalent bonding or what is a covalent bond. This is a new definition which I have mixed my one and the official difficult one, where I have combined the simple and the important points together to make this new definition. So the new definition is that when two or more nonmetals react by sharing pairs of electrons, when two or more nonmetals react by sharing pairs of electrons between them to gain stability or to have full outer shell electrons, this process is known as covalent bonding. You can write this one or the previous one I have shown, but I will say this one is also appropriate and that one is also appropriate. Both are correct. Both will give you the full marks. If you write, both will give you the full marks. So let's keep it till today. So assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you for staying with me.